Okay, welcome to the video. So today will be a little bit different than the previous videos. It will be more of me sort of talking rather than cooking. I will structure this video in 4 parts. First, starting out with these 15 observations, you could say, of lessons learned. Then I will look a bit on my own journey and what I've done the past years, fitness-wise. Then kind of a short crash course in calories and macronutrients. And lastly, what you can do to reach kind of your own goals. And I want to say also that I'm definitely no doctor or have any formal qualifications in that area. So this is purely my personal experiences. And this will be a little bit longer than the previous videos, but hopefully it's worth your while and can save you at least more than 15 years that it took for me to realize these things. Okay, so let's get started. Number 1, the diet. It's the most important part. I can't even exaggerate how much I totally misunderstood this from the beginning. So I can of course talk about hours and probably write books about this topic, and I'm sure there are books written about this topic and I might do more videos on it later. But essentially understanding that the diet and what you eat is probably 70 to 80% of the total effort required to actually reach your goals, especially if we're talking about losing fat or building muscle. If it's reducing calories, increasing calories, or so on, cutting down alcohol, all of that, definitely number 1. Okay, so number 2 then. Exercise is mainly for building muscle. Okay, so people think that going to the gym or running will get them to their targets, and it depends on what your targets are. But for those who want to lose fat, that's probably not going to be enough. And that definitely goes back to the point number 1 again. It's all about the diet. So if you go running for 1 hour, or if you go hiking 1 hour, maybe you burn 1000 calories if you're lucky. And then it might work. But if you go to the gym or do, yoga or something, maybe you burn 100, 200, 300 calories. That's the same as maybe eating a Snickers bar. So it's probably better to just skip eating some of the foods or change your burger to a salad instead. That's probably gonna make as big of a difference, it's not bigger, than exercising. So once again, going back to the diet, rather doing that than going to the gym 7 times a week. I should add, of course, that exercising or going to the gym or running or doing yoga or high intensity training is good for health. My point is just that depending on what your targets are, if it is to build muscle or to lose fat, there are different ways of getting there. But the exercise itself is probably not as big part as one might think to get there. Okay, so that naturally brings me to point number 3. You eat too much. Either in terms of volume, but probably more in terms of calories. So I think step number 1 that you need to do, and that very few unfortunately are doing, is to understand how many calories you eat. So calories is just another word for energy. How much energy do you give to your body every day, and how much energy do you use? So there are a lot of calculators online, you can just Google to see how much your estimated energy is, how many calories you burn per day. So for me, a man 32 years old, it's around 2,500 calories a day. So that's how much I need to just maintain my current weight. If I eat more than that, I will gain fat. If I exercise, I can also build the muscle, but also a little bit of fat. If I want to lose fat, I need to eat less calories than that. Then I will feel hungry. And then most people will eat something. And that's the problem. Then you will never ever lose weight. Especially if you exercise, you get more hungry. But cardio is just another way to burn calories, to get you into that deficit of being lower than the calories you actually need. So if you eat too much, you will never lose weight. I'm also going to add to that to say that it's very easy to overeat because you don't really feel bad the same way as if you eat too little, because then you feel hungry, you won't eat. But if you overeat one day, you have a big pizza or a big burger, you have a caloric surplus, so you have more calories than the body needs, and that's being stored as fat. But the next day, if you go down to maintenance calories, the extra calories you ate yesterday will stay in your body in fat. So what you have to do is to eat less to burn those calories back. But that's a struggle and a challenge. And that's exactly what you have to do over a long period of time to get to where you probably want to be, if that's your goal, is to lose fat, because you have years of overeating built up in your body that you have to take away. And the body doesn't like that. It will resist, and that's why you feel hunger, and that will be a struggle. That brings me to point number 4. You have to get used to feeling hungry. You have to psychologically get used to this feeling of being hungry, because that's essentially the body telling you that you need energy, which is great, because that means that you're using up the energy reserves in your body because you're not eating, and then the fat is going away. So it's actually a good sign. So another way to do that even more effectively, for an example, to just accept that hunger feeling, is to do something called intermittent fasting, where you basically only eat within a certain time window every day. For an example, 8 hours, but there are different ways of doing it. So for an example, you skip breakfast, which for a lot of people is very hard to do. But if you get used to that, you're not gonna die just because you skip breakfast. The body will just use energy instead from your fat reserves. Then you will basically eat less because you had less food that day. So the body needs to use up the energy it has stored. But then you have to get used to the feeling of feeling hungry. But if you actually don't break your fast, which the word break fast comes from, you will probably not feel as hungry as you think you will do if you eat some really bad food for breakfast and then get hungry immediately after because you didn't eat anything good. But the first step is just to accept that the feeling of hunger, it's not actually a problem. It's actually good. It's a good sign that you're on the right track. Okay, so the next one, number 5. You need to lose twice as much weight as you think. And twice shouldn't be taken literally here, but basically it's probably way more than you think. So if you clicked on this video, it's probably because you saw the picture of me to the right, looking quite lean. And basically to get to that level, which I will show a little bit later, I lost 10 kilograms in 4 months. So I went from 80 kilos to 70 kilos, which is the lowest I've been in probably 15 years. And people maybe thought I lose 5 kilos, but 10 is quite aggressive. And then I am at 12% body fat. If I really want to go down to extremely lean, like bodybuilders or something like that, 8%, I probably need to lose another 5 kilos. And of course, that's crazy for most people. So if you think you want to lose 4 kilos, it's probably 8 as a starting point. So that naturally brings me to the next question, number 6. You have more fat than you think. And that's also why you need to lose more fat than you think. So if you haven't measured your body fat percentage level, you probably have a picture of it being much lower than it actually is. So I lost 10 kilograms, as I just mentioned. I can perhaps show the picture here actually, in 4 months. So I was starting from around 16%, which is definitely not high, but much higher than I wanted. So to go down from 16 to 12, as I mentioned, I had to lose 10 kilograms. That's not only fat, it's also a bit muscle, unfortunately, because it's hard to only lose fat. But essentially, if I'm 16, which is considered quite okay, most men are probably significantly higher than that, 20 or higher, which means that they would need to lose maybe 15 kilos or more, 20, to get to the level that I am. But maybe they don't really think so. And of course, women, it's different numbers, but similarly. So I would suggest getting a scale and seeing what your body fat percentage is. I will talk more about sort of strategies to actually do that later, but essentially understand where you are so you can understand where you need to be and then figure out the plan. So on the topic of plans, number 7, losing fat will take much longer than you think. As I mentioned, I lost 4 percentage points body fat, so from 16 to 12 in 4 months. and 10 kilos. So 10 kilos in 4 months is 2.5 kilos per month, which roughly is half a kilo per week. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 1 kilograms of fat is roughly 7,700 calories. So if you want to lose half a kilo per month, that's 3,300 calories roughly that you have to take away from your eating every week. So okay, if you were to lose 1 kilograms per week, 7 days, 7,700 divided by 7, that's 1,100 calories per day. So I was half of that. So basically having 550 calories deficit every day. So instead of 2,500, I eat around 2,000. So you can either do that by actually eating less, or by exercising correspondingly to 500 calories burned. So you eat 2,500 and then you burn 500 exercise, or just eat less, or somewhere in between. You eat 300 calories less, exercise 200 every single day on average for 4 months. So that is why it takes a lot longer. And if you overeat one day, as I did quite a few times, maybe some weekends here and there, you go out, you have pizza, you have pasta, instead of eating 2,500, you all of a sudden eat 4,000. Then all of a sudden you're behind 1,500 or your plan. So you have to retake that to sort of be on schedule again. So that makes it very easy to mess up your progress, especially if you don't track it every single day, because you don't really feel it. If you eat 1,000 calories, that's only like 0.1 kilograms of weight difference. So it doesn't really feel much, maybe on a day-to-day basis, but your weekly progress will slow down or go back. And that's what definitely makes you not progress the way that you want. Okay, so that brings me to number 8. You won't succeed if you don't track weight, fat, and diet. So I already mentioned about weight and fat percentage, but here comes also the tracking of the diet. So basically knowing what you eat, which of course can be challenging if you eat out. And I used to eat out almost every lunch and dinner for a long time, but then decided to first of all eat better breakfasts that I know what they contain, so I know how many calories I get. Lunch, still you can eat out if you know what you're kind of eating, so I eat similar things every day, and mostly Caesar chicken salad or something like that. And for dinner I cook myself, and weekends I cook for myself. So the good thing with that, if you cook yourself, is you know what you use. So for an example, I'm going to show on the screen here, I had 2 dishes today. I had bacon and avocado cottage cheese toast for breakfast. So despite being bacon, which a lot of people think is unhealthy, and egg, it was 1,341 calories, which of course is a lot, but since I mentioned earlier, I roughly need 2,500 per day, so I have 1,200 or so to go. So for dinner I made this pasta with truffle sauce and chicken, 1,354 calories. So those two together, first of all, have almost 152 grams of protein, so that is a lot. But basically, if you know what you eat, you can eat pretty much what you want. And then besides this, I of course exercised. I take a walk for 1 hour or 2 hours, or go to the gym. So the point is just to track, and then you can basically do whatever you want. Okay, so next up, number 9. You eat too little protein, but don't need protein shakes or protein bars. So essentially, I already mentioned this, that these 2 meals I had today are almost 150 grams of protein, which is a lot more than most people eat. I think the average person, average American at least, is recommended to eat 56 grams of protein. So it's almost 3 times more than that. So the saying goes that you need roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So I'm roughly 70 kilos right now, and 70 times 2 roughly is 140 grams of protein. It's a little bit more. That's what's recommended to eat if you're trying to build a muscle. So 150 is roughly around that, so it's pretty much on spot. But if you have never checked what you're eating before and you just eat out all the time, you shouldn't be surprised if you're getting only like 30 or 50 or 60 grams of protein per day. So of course, then that links to the second part here, that you don't need protein bars and protein shakes, because if you're only eating 50 grams of protein and you get a protein shake with 20 grams, you're still only at 70, and you need to get at 150. So you need to double your intake anyway, and you're not going to take 10 protein shakes or 10 protein bars, to go from 20 each up to 200 or 150. What you need to do is to eat proper foods with a lot of protein, like chicken, or different types of meats or fish, broccoli, different greens that have a lot of protein. So many different options. But just to realize how much more protein you need to eat that you're eating today. And also, protein is very satiating, which means it makes you feel full, but actually protein has quite low caloric value. So even if you eat, let's say 400 grams of chicken breast, which is pretty crazy, but I do sometimes, that's actually not so much in terms of calories compared to if you eat something with a lot of fats or carbs. Okay, so on the topic of protein and fats and carbs, next up, number 10. It's much easier to lose fat than to gain muscle, because basically to lose fat you only need to be in a caloric deficit, and the body will burn fat to lose the excess body fat. And of course you can exercise more, especially if you don't want to lose muscle, you need to do weight training to make sure that you don't lose the muscles you built up. But if you want to build the muscle, first of all you need to eat protein, because protein is what builds up the muscles. But then you also have to be in a caloric surplus. But then that's only the nutritional part. Then of course you need to have the right strategy inside the gym or whatever part that you're exercising to do, for an example, progressive overload. So you actually exhaust your muscles more and more over time, every time. So you increase the weight, you stress them more so they break down and then build up again. So if you don't track that either, which is a totally separate topic, which I didn't do for 10 years, then you don't do any progress. But as soon as you start tracking that and push yourself more and more and more and eat properly, you will definitely get results, both for losing weight and to build muscle. Okay, so related to building muscle and burning fat, number 11. You can't burn fat on your abs specifically. So let's say your goal is to have abs. Unfortunately, there's no way you can just burn away the fat around your abs, because when you burn fat by being in a caloric deficit, you basically burn fat on your whole body at the same time. There might be some differences between different people, but generally that's how it works. And unfortunately, the fat on the abs is among the last places that goes away. So you need to reduce a lot of other things first. And then when you get down to really low levels, then you will actually start to reveal the abs. As they say, abs are made in the gym, but revealed in the kitchen. That basically means being caloric deficit so that they show, because your body fat percentage goes down. So there's no magical cure or exercise. So of course, if you exercise your abs, they will get bigger. So once you get to a low level of body fat, you will see them and they might be more impressive, so to speak. But there's no way to just burn the fat there. Okay, so that brings us to number 12. You can eat any food you want, including junk food and processed food. And that's why I like to have this bit provoking pictures with pancakes and French toast and so on that I showed earlier, also with the pasta and avocado toast with bacon. Because essentially, if you know what you're eating and track it, you can eat it. So if you want to go out and have junk food, like a really greasy burger with fries or something like that, the burger might be 700-800 calories, which is okay. But if you have, let's say, fries with cheese on top of it, that can easily be like 1,000 calories. So the burger and fries is 1,700 calories. Then you have 800 calories to go for the whole day. So then you better eat some salad or something, because you only have room for basically one normal meal. So you have to be smart with what you eat. Otherwise you're going to starve essentially, because the food will be digested and the volume will make you feel hungry even though you got the energy that's required. But essentially, if you just plan what you're eating, so if you know you're going to eat out the big pizza night, you can perhaps do intermittent fasting and skip breakfast, have a salad for lunch, and then you can actually have both starter, pizza and dessert for dinner, and you'll be fine. So it gives you the freedom, if you know what you're eating by tracking it, to actually eat exactly what you want, which is a very important realization to make this as a sustainable lifestyle, actually, to reach your goal and still eat what you want. So this should not come as a surprise by now. Maintaining the current level of fitness is the easiest part. So basically the hard part is to either increase in weight, muscle weight, by building muscle, because you need to push yourself and eat a lot of protein, or to be in a caloric deficit and lose weight, because you're actively trying to change your body composition by increasing its weight or decreasing its weight. But staying, you basically just continue eating and doing exactly what you do every day, and your body will not change, and you will not, if you don't overeat or undereat, it will just maintain the same. So if you go down to a good level that you're happy with physically, then you can just maintain that and basically be fit forever. So it's not just like, oh, it's beach season now, I have to be shredded, and then you get fat in the winter. You don't have to do that. You can just stay the same all year. And then of course some people might want to sort of improve their physique by getting stronger or bigger, but that's a different topic. Just to maintaining it is not as big of a challenge as once you have managed to increase or decrease fat or muscle. Okay, so number 14. So genetics definitely do play a role, but I think it's easier to blame the genetics, but it's actually in reality probably you who are the problem with not the proper diet or exercise regimen. But it is true that some people have, for example, a higher or lower metabolism, so they burn, for example, calories faster or a higher level, or of course you can be taller or shorter and so on, which affects your body composition. Then also there are structural differences, like for example how your abs actually look, so you can sort of have different shapes and forms of that, and of course then people can have diseases and so on. But generally speaking, you can probably affect, most of us at least, the way you look and appear a lot by yourself, rather than blaming the genetics. Of course there are exceptions, but this is generally the case. Okay, and then the last one. So going to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to be too big or look like a bodybuilder. So I wish it would be that easy for that to happen. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I don't think anyone needs to be scared of going to the gym to become too big. A lot of maybe especially women and girls think that they don't want to train weight training because they don't want to have big muscles. But just the fact that women specifically have a much lower testosterone level basically means that it's extremely hard for them to build muscle the same way that men do. So for them specifically, that's maybe even less concern. But even for guys, I think it's probably more about knowing how to do the proper exercises that might be the challenge if you don't have a coach, rather than that you will be too big, because you need to eat a lot over a very long time, 5-10 years, to actually become really big and have visible differences. Unless you're in your first year or so of training, then you can improve a lot. But that's more on a positive level. I don't think anyone will be scared by you all of a sudden becoming the Hulk, going to the gym. So yeah, that's the last one of the 15. I hope you learned something new from this, and I just want to round up with some other comments on sort of reaching a goal as well first. So maybe before we go into goal setting, just a reflection on my own side here. So here's a picture of me November 2007 when I'm 20. Basically have no clue what I'm doing, no goals in sight whatsoever. I think I stepped into the gym the first time in my life like 3 or 4 months before this. But actually I was only 67 kilograms at the time. And I think in around 1 year or half a year, I actually gained 8 kilos. So from 67 to 78. Of course, some fat for sure as part of that, but still. So that is possible when you start. Then I was just going through some photos from this time and saw this picture of kind of a coffee break I had with, basically only sugar, banana, snacks, energy drink, juice, no protein whatsoever, or healthy carbs and fats. So clearly no progress and no idea what I'm doing. And then basically I've maintained kind of that look since 2009 to 2019, so almost 10 years. And out of those I've been working 7 years basically in an office, normal job. Not much happening. Going to the gym several times a week, running, eating, basically getting no real progress. But then last summer in July, around when I took the photo on the right, I decided that I want to improve my physique. And before May 1st, 2020, I want to be sort of beach fit. And then I heard some people say like, okay, you look fit around 12% body fat. So I basically decided, okay, 1st of May 2020, I want to be 12% body fat. And I reached it 2 days before that, 11.9% body fat on the 28th of April, which was last week. So it is definitely doable. Then just a before and after photo here from 1st of January this year, 16.1% body fat and also 43.9% muscle. And then to the right then a few days ago here, 11.9% body fat, 46.2% muscle. So basically the share of muscle as share of the total body weight is higher. But of course these are two extreme photos next to each other. So if you look at them one by one, it looks much slower sort of progress wise, which is how it actually works in reality and what you need to have patience with. So in January, 29 days, only lost about 2 kilograms down to 15.3, basically looks the same. Then February and March, not much happening due to travels and other things. 75 kilograms, 14.1% body fat end of March, but you're starting to see some progress. Then mid-April here, basically see a little bit of abs popping out. So around 14 you can see some lines, and then getting down to 13 it's starting to get better. Then when you're going down closer to 12, definitely some differences, and then below 12, so 11.9, you get more definition. And also here I'm very sort of dry, probably a bit dehydrated, that makes it look even more kind of impressive. So I think the key to getting somewhere, getting progress, is to set goals. Many people say like, oh, I want to get ripped, I want to get shredded, I want to have like 10% body fat. But I mean, if you have actually 12% body fat, then you actually have a specific goal. But a lot of people just say like, I want to get fit. But that's very, very hard to make progress on and quantify. So basically I would say the first step is to, okay, set goals. That's number one. Number two, make them specific. So, okay, 12%, that's a specific goal. By when? So 1st of May. So you might have heard of something called like SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So that goes for a lot of things in life generally, but also works in fitness. Then of course you need to have a way of actually measuring and seeing, do I do progress? So I recommend to do that, basically weigh yourself every morning, or because if you do it every week, maybe that day before you had a cheat meal or cheat day, and your body weight is not normal. But if you have you do it every day, you can actually do weekly averages, and you can see every week what progress you have. So I'm actually gonna bring that up on the screen here, both showing my weight over time you can see that it has been kind of stable for a long time and then suddenly dropped drastically lately. And also weekly body fat percentages and weight once I actually starting to track that this year, this spring, but also when I actually started to really track what I eat the past months, how it like really drastically changed. So have a system that works for you. For me it is weighing myself every day, and also when I eat, or at least when I cook, I basically take a photo of the ingredients that I have and I put them down in Excel afterwards. But there are also other tools like MyFitnessPal or something like that. So those are ways to get there. But first is just to set the first step. So I just heard from someone who said like, oh, I want to lose 4 kilograms, but not really like why, and 4 kilograms of fat, or what does that mean, or do you want to reach a certain level? So define that and see where you are, especially so you can track, and then just make a plan and calculate backwards. So okay, then I need to lose this much per month. I'm going to lose that much by eating this much less per week or month or day. And then you track what you eat every day, and then you see if you're on the right track. And if you weigh, you should see progress, and then you're off to a very, very good start. So as I mentioned, I think the diet part is probably the major news for many people, and even if you know about it, it's the hardest part to actually implement and keep track over time. But at least I hope that you got some inspiration for this video. It definitely turned out a lot longer than I initially thought, but maybe you can revisit some parts and see if you learn anything. And maybe the pictures showed you what it can actually look like. I barely believed it myself that I could actually do this kind of progress, but it's all about having a system and measuring things, but there are different ways to do that. This is the way that worked for me. But anyways, give me a comment if you have questions, or you don't agree on some points, or have other ideas or inspiration. Give me a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think, and see you in the next video.